Okay, so let's get to the Jordan Ford conversation. Again, Jordan Ford, he did some really nice things at the G League level last year. 14.6 points, 4.7 assists. Maybe it's 14.7 and 4.6 assists per game. He shot the ball well. He led the team to the best record in the Western Conference of the G League. And they got bounced in the first round, they got bounced in their first playoff game. But that doesn't take away from what he was able to accomplish. And the good thing is about Jordan Ford is he provides like a very mature stabilizing force without being a very mature NBA stabilizing force.
Sure.
Like, they had Trey Burke there. And that's one of those guys that you think, oh, okay, NBA player, he's got all this experience. But really, Jordan Ford ran the show. It was his team.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he did a really, really good job. And I think rewarding your players is a big deal. Having guys come up and through your system, and you find maybe a diamond in the rough, and then you reward him by at least giving a training camp invite. And it's very possible Jordan Ford will just be back at the Stockton Kings this year. But it's also possible the Kings still have an open two-way spot. Because this year you have 3 two-ways that you can sign. It's very possible that he can earn that two-way spot. And I think it leads us into a different discussion. The Kings last year, they ran Matthew Dellavedova out there as their third point guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually played more minutes than I think anyone thought he would. He played in more games than you thought he would. And he was a very good leader off the court. People really liked him. But he decided to go back to Australia and play to continue his career and, kind of finish up where he started. But when we compare what's happening with Jordan Ford to what just happened to Mias Queta, it's kind of an interesting discussion because the Kings are at this point where it's possible that they've reached, like, in their development, where making a team like this is very difficult, where you're not going to have, if you have a choice between 25-year-old point guard who's never played in the game or 24-year-old center that's only played maybe 40 games in his career versus an NBA veteran like a JaVale McGee or an Alex Len, like at what point do you have to do what's right and bring in veterans to help that what they're going to do?
Exactly.
That you can write in pen, not in pencil, or not some wishful thinking. And I think the Kings might be at this position where they have to start looking at their roster construction a different way.
I agree. This isn't a team where potential gets you on the court anymore. It might in a blowout, and maybe if there's really bad foul trouble one day or people are sitting, whatever, then okay, maybe. So the Kings are beyond betting on upside, though. Upside doesn't help them nearly as much as having a player who just knows what to do. And having a player that JaVale McGee, for example, and I think to maybe to a lesser extent, Jordan Ford would also fit this bill of a player that knows where they are in the NBA and they know their lane in the NBA. They know how to make a team. They know how to help a team. And they're not going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm brimming with potential. I should be playing more. And that starts to become an issue. So I think that's why you go with JaVale McGee, who when you need him in the game, you know exactly what you're going to get. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He's going to accept that role and he's going to embrace it. And I think Jordan Ford, when you start talking about as a third point guard, probably not going to play very much, going to sit at the end of the bench a lot of nights. But if he comes into camp and the Kings look at him and they go, you know what? He gets the system. He's reliable. He knows where to pass the ball. He knows when to shoot the ball. He shot it at a 41% clip, I think, in college at St. Mary's. That's super valuable, even if the upside isn't there. Just knowing, hey, you know what? De'Aaron's in foul trouble and Donovan Mitchell tweaked his ankle. Hey, they need somebody who's going to go play 15 minutes. Davion Mitchell, sorry, is going to go play 15 minutes and be fine. That's crazy valuable on a team that expects to be a top 3 or 4 team in the West.
Yeah, and so the way I look at it too is, look, De'Aaron Fox, he missed 9 games last season. He played in 73 games. And in those games, Matthew Dellavedova played. Like, and we're not talking he just, he played 3 minutes. He actually played 13, 14 minutes some of those games. And they relied on him. I mean, Matthew Dellavedova played 213 minutes, which doesn't sound like that much, but it's over 32 games.
Right.
That's 52 minutes more than Alex Len played. Like he played a lot more than Alex Len played. It was like him and KZ Okpala and Kessler Edwards and Rashawn Holmes in this group of players that didn't play a ton. But what I saw from having that veteran there or having that third point guard is that when you do have nights, because De'Aaron Fox, the way he plays, he's going to miss games every year. Like for him, he's played, I think he had one season where he played 82 or he played 81. But overall, he's a guy who plays at crazy speed. His second year, he played 81 games. There's always going to be times where he's gonna need to sit, even if it's the team looking at him and looking at like his bounce rate when they have him go warm up, they bring him off the court and they're like, hey, your legs aren't moving the way that we think they should be. We're gonna have to change some things, maybe cut back your minutes, maybe cut back your workouts. Like the Kings are very like in tune with their players' bodies. But again, what I think would be a perfect world for Jordan Ford. I don't know if this is what the Kings are thinking. I'm just going to tell you right away. If you sign him to a two-way contract, he gets half of a league minimum deal, so $550,000, which is a lot more than Jordan Ford's ever made in his entire life playing basketball.
Yeah.
But what it does is you have up to 50 games during the season where you can bring him up.
Right.
And the beauty to a guy like Jordan Ford is that he's playing the whole time. So when you bring him up, it's not like you're bringing a guy who's been sitting on the bench for 3 months.
Right.
And he's got, like to ramp him up and get him up to speed is going to be a difficult thing, which is what a third point guard is in the NBA. If you have a third point guard on your bench, I would almost prefer a two-way contract for a third point guard.
Sure.
Because the Kings already have depth there. They've got Davion, they've got De'Aaron. They also have Malik Monk who can play the point.
Right.
They also have Chris Duarte who can play the point. Like they have other players that can step in and eat minutes if you have to. Jordan Ford would be like sort of a break in case of emergency type deal. And at the same time, he's running another team. He's loose. He's got his shooting stroke going.
Yeah. And
so I think there is some beauty into this. And like again with Keita, I get it why they go a different direction. They're at a different point. This isn't who they are.
Yeah. And that, like I said, you feel for him, but it's not, the Kings can't go minus 12 in a stretch of 6 minutes because they're trying to see what Neemias Queta's got. Like, that's not viable anymore. And that's not a dig on him.
No,
it's just the reality of being a team that is a playoff team and wants to be a championship contender.
Yeah.
The betting on upside is not as available anymore.
Yeah, I really do think that, like every stage that we're going to see here as the Kings, morph into who they're going to become. Last season was all about Keegan Murray. He was the lone young player that they were going to give an option to play. This year, it's only Keegan Murray again.
Yeah.
Like I can almost guarantee you that Colby Jones, like where's Colby Jones going to play? Like, I think Colby Jones can play. We'll practice, but no, he's going to play in Stockton. Like he's a second round pick. Whether he had first round talent or not, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's buried on the bench behind, again, Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, Chris Duarte, De'Aaron Fox, and Davion Mitchell can play in the same backcourt together. De'Aaron can play the two as well. Like, where is he going to find minutes? And the answer is in Stockton. The Kings are very focused on, how we're going to develop and build this season, not how we're going to develop and build a specific player.
Yeah.
And if they are doing that, the player they're focused on is Keegan Murray, who they think is going to be a star.
And the fact of the matter is this isn't, and I know we got to go here, but they're also not banking their entire future on the development of this player.
Nope.
Like if he doesn't develop, if Jones doesn't develop, then okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how it is. They're not going to bank a ton of time into ensuring that he's going to be a contributor next year.
I totally agree.